I never imagined that in my 60s I'd be hiding in a remote hunting cabin with a pistol on the table, protecting my pregnant daughter from one of the most powerful families in the state. But life has a strange way of reminding you who you really are. 3 nights earlier, I found my daughter half conscious in the woods outside town. Beaten, bruised, ribs broken, barely able to stand. Her clothes were soaked with rain, and there was blood tangled in her hair. When I tried to get her to speak, she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and whispered something that made my stomach drop. "Mom." It was Lucille. Lucille, her mother-in-law. At first I thought the concussion was talking, but Olivia kept repeating the same name while I drove us away from those woods as fast as I could. Lucille had invited her out to look at land for a family project, supposedly a surprise for Gavin. Olivia trusted her. Lucille had always been controlling, always a little cold, but she was still family. Apparently that changed the moment Olivia asked the wrong question. My daughter works as a financial analyst. Numbers are her language. While helping review documents for the Sterling Foundation, the charity run by her husband's family, she noticed money moving through shell companies that shouldn't have existed. Millions of dollars. When Olivia confronted Lucille, the woman smiled and told her she was imagining things. Then she invited her on that trip. According to Olivia, the moment they stepped out of the car in the woods, Lucille picked up something heavy and swung over and over, calling my daughter's blood dirty, telling her she never should have married into their family, and reminding her that the baby she carried would never belong among the Sterlings. Even now it makes me sick to think about. By the time I got Olivia to my brother Marcus's cabin deep in the mountains, she could barely stay conscious. Marcus spent most of his life in special operations, the kind of man who stays calm when everyone else panics. When he saw Olivia's injuries, something in his eyes changed. Cold, focused, dangerous. He didn't waste time with questions. Within minutes, he had the stove lit, blankets out, and a pistol sitting on the table. "We're not taking her to a hospital," he said quietly. I stared at him. "She's pregnant, Marcus." "And if the Sterlings are behind this," he replied, "the hospital is the first place they'll look." That's when I realized how serious this had become. Marcus called an old friend, a combat medic named Wallace, who owed him a few favors from overseas. The man arrived before dawn with a battered medical bag and equipment I didn't know civilians could own. For nearly an hour he checked Olivia's injuries: broken ribs, fractured wrist, concussion, bruises everywhere. My hands shook while he worked. But the moment that nearly made me collapse came when he pulled out a portable ultrasound and pressed it gently to Olivia's stomach. The machine hummed. We all held our breath. Then, a steady rhythm filled the room. Heartbeat. The baby was alive. Olivia burst into tears. I squeezed her hand until she laughed through them. Wallace leaned back and nodded. "Kid's tough," Marcus finally exhaled. But Wallace's expression turned serious again. "These injuries weren't random," he said quietly. "Whoever attacked her knew exactly how to hurt her without killing her." Marcus didn't answer. He just stared at the fire. Later that night, after Olivia fell asleep, Marcus opened his laptop. "People like the Sterlings only understand leverage," he said. "What kind of leverage?" He turned the screen toward me. "Bank transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts." Apparently Marcus had friends who specialized in digging up financial dirt. Within an hour, he'd assembled enough evidence to destroy Lucille Sterling's reputation. Then he did something even bolder. He sent a message directly to Arthur Sterling, Lucille's husband, Gavin's father, and the man who owned half the businesses in our state. Marcus attached the files. At the bottom he wrote one line: "We need to talk about your wife." I didn't think someone that powerful would answer. 40 minutes later, Marcus's satellite phone buzzed. Arthur Sterling replied with a single sentence: "Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Old Park Diner." Marcus smiled slightly. Hooked him. The next evening we drove into the city while Olivia stayed at the cabin. Marcus had 3 of his old military friends already inside the diner, posing as regular customers. I spotted Arthur Sterling immediately. Tall, gray-haired, expensive suit, eyes that looked like they'd fought wars in boardrooms. He skipped the small talk. "You claim my wife tried to kill your daughter," he said calmly. "That's a serious accusation." My hands trembled as I placed photos of Olivia's injuries on the table. "This is my daughter," I said quietly, "and she's carrying your grandchild." For the first time, his expression shifted. Marcus played Olivia's recorded statement describing the attack. The diner felt suddenly silent. Arthur listened without interrupting. When it ended, he studied the documents Marcus had prepared. Then he asked the question that told me everything. What do you want? Not denial, not outrage. Negotiation. Marcus leaned forward. Safety for Olivia, a divorce from Gavin, compensation, and Lucille never comes near them again. Arthur tapped his fingers on the table for a long time. Then, he said something that surprised both of us. I believe you. I blinked. What? He closed the folder slowly. My wife has been unstable lately. That's when Marcus delivered the final blow. Another folder slid across the table. Inside were photos of Lucille with another man, a hotel manager from one of Arthur's own properties. 3 years of secret meetings. And proof they'd been moving charity money together. Arthur's face went completely still. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded like stone. I will handle my wife personally. Marcus nodded. The deal was done. 3 days later, Lucille Sterling disappeared. Officially, she went to a clinic in Switzerland. Unofficially, Arthur exiled her somewhere in South America with just enough money to stay quiet. Olivia received the divorce papers and a settlement large enough to rebuild her life. Everything should have ended there. But a week later, Arthur Sterling showed up at the cabin himself. Alone. No guards, no lawyers, just a tired old man at the door. When he saw Olivia's pregnant belly, something in his face softened. I came to apologize, he said quietly. Then he made a request none of us expected. He wanted to be part of the baby's life, not as a businessman, just as a grandfather. Olivia thought about it for a long time. Finally, she nodded. You can meet the baby, she said, but on one condition. Arthur waited. My child will never see Lucille again. He didn't hesitate. That will never happen. A month later, Olivia gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Zora. For a while, life finally felt peaceful. Until the afternoon, a black sedan pulled into our driveway. Olivia went pale the moment she saw who stepped out. Gavin Sterling, her ex-husband. The man who had known the entire time that his mother was poisoning Olivia during her first pregnancy. He walked slowly toward the porch, staring at the stroller where little Zora slept. I came to meet my daughter. Olivia stood up. You don't have a daughter here, she said quietly. Gavin sighed. Olivia, that's not fair. I stepped forward. You need to leave. You disappeared, he said. Divorce papers. Accusations about my mother. No explanation. Olivia laughed, a cold sound. Accusations? Before I continue, if you enjoy real-life karma stories like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Gavin spread his hands. I never heard your side. Olivia's expression hardened. You were standing in the kitchen when your mother put poison in my tea. The silence was crushing. Olivia, Gavin said carefully, that's ridiculous. You remember the nausea, the fainting, the doctor saying my first pregnancy wasn't viable? Her voice trembled. I thought my body was failing. My mother gave you supplements. No. Her voice cracked across the yard. She poisoned me. You can't just say that. You want proof? He hesitated. Sure. Olivia pulled out her phone. The recording began with quiet kitchen sounds. Then Lucille's voice. You really think that baby belongs in this family? Gavin went pale. You're temporary, Olivia. Lucille continued. The Sterling name will not be carried by someone like you. Then Gavin's voice appeared. Mom, maybe you should leave it alone. Lucille laughed. Oh, relax. It's only enough to make her sick. The recording ended. No one spoke. You recorded that? Gavin whispered. Olivia nodded. I didn't realize it would save my life later. I didn't know she meant it, he said weakly. You watched her pour it into my tea. He had no answer. Then another car pulled into the driveway. Arthur Sterling stepped out. Gavin, he said calmly, we need to talk. Arthur glanced at the stroller before speaking again. I listened to the recording. Dad, Mom exaggerates. She attempted murder. The words landed hard. Because of that, Arthur continued, your mother has been removed from all Sterling accounts and businesses. She will never return to this country. You exiled Mom? Yes. But she's your wife. She stopped being my wife the moment she tried to kill the mother of my grandchild. Gavin looked stunned. Okay, he said slowly. Mom's gone. Problem solved. Olivia shook her head. No. You knew she was hurting me, she said. You didn't stop it. That's not fair. You chose your mother. I'm still Zora's father. You were the man who watched someone poison your pregnant wife. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Arthur sighed quietly. There's something else, he said. I've spoken with my attorneys. A long pause. Your parental rights are being challenged. You can't do that. I'm supporting the petition, Arthur replied. You're siding with her? Arthur looked at Zora. I'm siding with my granddaughter. Something in Gavin finally broke. I didn't think it would go this far, he whispered. By letting your mother destroy my life? Olivia asked. He had no answer. He turned toward his car. Halfway there, he stopped. Can I, at least, see her once? Olivia looked down at the sleeping baby, then back at him. No. Gavin nodded like he already knew. He drove away without another word. Arthur remained standing in the yard. Finally, he said quietly, I failed you. Olivia studied him. Then she nodded toward the stroller. You can hold her. Arthur lifted Zora gently, his hands trembling. The powerful businessman vanished. All that remained was a grandfather holding his granddaughter. And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes, karma isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes, it's a man losing everything he thought mattered, and finally understanding what truly does. And Gavin Sterling? The last I heard, he's still trying to convince the courts he deserves to be part of Zora's life. But some betrayals don't get second chances. And some families learn the hard way that blood alone doesn't make you one.